The sun of Varan 4 hung low in the dusty sky, giving the colony streets a pale orange glow that made everything look tired and forgotten. Wind moved through the broken metal frames of old shops, making a soft crying sound as if the place itself remembered better days. Nothing lived here now, except a few families who had nowhere else to go. And even they were slowly fading away, one hungry day at a time. Among them was a small alien girl named Lyra. Her skin held a faint lavender shade, but weeks of hunger made it dull. Her eyes, once bright like small moons, now looked clouded from worry. Her younger brother Tommy, only 7, followed closely behind her, leaning against walls every few steps because his legs had become weak. He had not eaten in 3 days. His voice was faint. He did not laugh anymore. He barely spoke. Lyra kept a brave face, but inside she felt fear so heavy that sometimes it stole her breath. She was only a child, yet she had become both mother and protector for her brother. If she cried, Tommy would cry. If she hoped, Tommy hoped. So she held her tears deep inside and kept walking. That morning, she heard rumors in the empty streets. "Humans are here," some whispered. "Deathworlders. Be careful." Others said, "They are strong, but they help those who need help." Lyra did not know which one was true. All she knew was that her brother needed food, and nobody else had any left. She only had one thing left to trade her toys. They were small figures carved from colorful stones. Her father had made them for her before the war. They were her most precious things, but Tommy's life was more precious, so she wrapped them in a cloth and held them close. She reached the old marketplace where the humans had set up a temporary landing zone. Most aliens hid when humans walked by. Humans looked different. Tall, firm, powerful. Their steps sounded heavy on the metal floors. Their armor looked scratched and burned, as if they lived through storms that other species could never survive. But one human stood apart. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stood near a supply crate, helmet off, wiping sweat from his brow. His face showed tired lines, but his eyes were calm. His armor was worn, yet he looked more like a guardian than a monster. Lyra watched him for a long time. She wanted to step forward, but her feet felt glued to the ground. Fear and hope fought inside her. She had never spoken to a human before. She did not know if he would understand her language, or if he would simply tell her to go away. Marcus looked around and noticed her small figure standing alone at the edge of the broken street. He didn't move. He didn't want to scare her. She was clearly frightened, but also desperate. And Marcus had seen desperation before on Earth, during times when everything collapsed and people fought just to survive one more day. When Lyra finally gathered enough courage, she stepped forward. Her hands shook so much that she almost dropped the cloth bundle. She stopped about 5 steps from Marcus and lifted her trembling hands toward him. With a tiny, cracking voice, she said, "Take my toys, human. Just give us food. Please. My brother hasn't eaten in days." Marcus felt his heart twist. He had served in battles, seen burned landscapes, faced giant creatures that tried to crush him, but nothing hit him as hard as the sight of a starving child offering the last precious thing she owned. He knelt slowly to her level so he didn't tower over her. His voice came out gentle, soft enough not to frighten her. "Hey, you don't need to give me your toys," he said. "You keep them. Where is your brother?" Lyra swallowed hard. "At home. He is too weak to walk far." "Your parents?" Marcus asked quietly. Lyra lowered her eyes. "Gone." A silence hung in the air. Marcus didn't need more explanation. War took parents. Hunger took the rest. The Galactic Council had promised to help Varan 4, but they never came back. Humans came instead, just a small team to check the area. Not enough to rebuild anything. Marcus stood and opened the supply crate. Technically, he wasn't supposed to hand out food without permission, but the rules felt useless here. He took 2 food bars, 1 water packet, and a small nutrient drink. "These are for your brother," he said. "And for you. Keep your toys. They are important." Lyra blinked fast to hide her tears. She nodded and motioned for him to follow. I can show you our home. Maybe you can help him drink, Marcus agreed. He walked behind her as she moved through narrow paths filled with broken walls and burnt-out metal. Tommy's little footprints could still be seen in the dust. The deeper they went, the more Marcus noticed strange details. Some doors had deep scratches. Some walls had dents as if something heavy had slammed against them. The ground had marks like dragging metal. It didn't look like normal damage. Something or someone had been moving through these ruins recently. Lyra, Marcus said, has anyone come near your home? She hesitated. Maybe. Sometimes I hear things at night. Heavy sounds. But no one comes inside. Her answer didn't calm him. They reached the building that served as the siblings' shelter. It was an old storage room with one half-collapsed wall. Inside, Tommy lay curled under a thin blanket, shivering, even in the warm air. When he saw Marcus, fear flickered in his weak eyes. He tried to sit up, but his arms trembled. It's okay, Lyra whispered to him. He is here to help. Marcus knelt beside the boy, opened the food packet, and handed it to Tommy. The child touched it as if unsure it was real. He took small bites, slow and careful, like someone afraid the food might disappear. Watching him, Marcus felt a mix of anger and sadness, anger at the council for abandoning this colony, and sadness for the children who were suffering because of it. While the siblings ate, Marcus looked around the room again. The scratches on the outside wall were clearer from here. They were long, curved, and deep. No common tool could make marks like this. It was more like claws, or armor spikes. Then he noticed a piece of dark metal near the wall. It was small, but the shape looked familiar from old reports' Karnak Raider armor. Marcus picked it up, his jaw tightening. Karnak Raiders were dangerous, especially to abandoned colonies. They searched for resources, sometimes for people, but mostly for things they could sell. If they were here, the whole colony was in danger, but he said nothing to the children. They were already scared enough. He looked back at Lyra and asked softly, "Do you two sleep here alone every night?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. We used to stay in the big shelter. But it was too far. And Tommy cannot walk that much now." Marcus exhaled. "You can't stay here anymore. It's not safe." Lyra's eyes widened. "Are you leaving us?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "You're coming with me. Both of you." Tommy looked up, confused but hopeful. Lyra wasn't sure. She hugged her toys close. "Humans don't stay long," she whispered. "Everyone leaves us." Marcus shook his head. "I won't leave you." He reached for his radio to call his squad, but only static came through. Heavy, sharp static, like something was blocking the signal. That made Marcus's heartbeat quicken. Jamming meant someone was trying to hide. He tried again. More static. He looked at the open part of the ruined wall, thinking fast. Whoever scratched the door might still be around. If the Karnak were here, they could be scouting already. The kids were in more danger than he thought. He moved the children closer to him, keeping them between his arms. "We need to leave soon," he said. Lyra nodded, trusting him more now. Marcus checked the door, then the broken wall. The air outside felt strangely still, as if the ruins were holding their breath. He stepped forward, scanning the shadows. The wind shifted. Something moved. A large, dark shape passed behind the broken corner of a wall, slow, heavy, deliberate. Not the wind. Not an animal. Something much bigger. Marcus froze. Lyra noticed his eyes change. "What is it?" she whispered. He didn't answer. He stepped in front of the children. Muscles tense. Senses sharpening. Outside, the shadow moved again, long, reaching, as if something was crawling or walking close to the wall. Searching. Hunting. Marcus didn't know what it was yet, but he knew one thing. Danger had found them, and it was getting closer. The ruined storage room grew silent after the shadow passed. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath, as if afraid to make noise. Marcus kept his body in front of Lyra and Tommy, blocking their view of the broken wall. His eyes stayed fixed on the place where the dark shape had moved moments earlier. Tommy clutched his sister's arm. Lyra held her toys close to her chest, shaking softly. Neither child spoke. They watched Marcus. Trying to read the worry in his face, Marcus raised a hand slowly, signaling them to stay behind him. He leaned forward without making a sound and peered through the gap in the wall. Nothing. At least nothing he could see yet, but Marcus knew danger when it breathed near him. Years of training, years of battlefield experience, years of surviving things that should have killed him. His instincts rarely lied. Something was out there. Something big. Something watching them. The silence stretched for several long seconds before Marcus spoke again, but his voice was calm and steady, like he was trying to soothe the air itself. Lyra, Tommy, stay close to me. Don't run. Don't make sudden noise. Just follow. Both children nodded quickly. Marcus checked his sidearm, not the strongest weapon, but better than nothing. He also pulled his shock baton from its holder, activating it quietly. The soft blue glow of the baton lit the room for a second before he lowered it. He moved to the exit slowly, keeping the children behind him. As he stepped outside, he scanned every shadow, every broken wall, every corner. The colony ruins were a maze of collapsed buildings and dark alleyways perfect for something to hide in. But the strange shadow was gone. At least for the moment. Marcus didn't relax. He knew predators often circled their prey, watching for weakness. He guided the children into a more open part of the street. The buildings were damaged but still standing enough to cast long shadows across the dusty ground. "Where are we going?" Lyra whispered. "To the central outpost," Marcus replied. "My team is stationed there. It's safer." Tommy held Marcus's arm. "Are they nice like you?" Marcus gave a small smile. "They're humans. Sometimes we look scary. But most of us try to do the right thing." They moved slowly through the ruins. Marcus kept his senses open, turning his head at every sound. A distant metal creak. A falling pebble. The soft hiss of wind, but nothing clear enough to identify what had followed them. Lyra's breathing was uneven. "Is it still behind us?" Marcus didn't lie. "I don't know. That's why we need to keep moving." As they walked, Marcus tried his radio again. "Alpha Team, respond. This is Lieutenant Hale. Come in." Only static returned. He tried a different frequency. "Command transport. Do you copy?" More static. The jamming signal was still active. That meant someone wanted to keep communications silent. Someone wanted the humans blind and alone. Marcus hated that feeling. They reached a narrow passage between two fallen towers. Marcus stopped the children before entering. "Stay here," he whispered. He crouched and scanned the ground. Dust was disturbed. Deep marks, some heavy. Some sharp, crossed the dirt. Something large had moved through this passage recently. Then he saw it, a broken piece of dark armor on the ground. Exactly like the piece he found near the children's home. Karnak raiders. He lifted the armor piece and studied it. Karnak raiders were known across the outer systems. They didn't attack strong colonies or defended bases. They targeted weak, abandoned places just like Varan 4. They took resources and sometimes people. They were ruthless and fast. If Karnak were here, the colony was in even greater danger. Marcus tucked the armor piece into his belt and returned to the children. "We go together. Stay close." Lyra looked down. "Human. Do you think that thing will hurt us?" Marcus shook his head. "Not while I'm here." They followed him into the narrow passage. Halfway through, a sudden wind gusted behind them, carrying with it a low, deep growl. Lyra gasped. Tommy grabbed Marcus's leg. Marcus spun around, baton raised. The passage behind them was empty, dead silent. He waited, listening carefully. The growl had been reeled too deep for a normal animal, too close to ignore. But the creature did not show itself. "Don't look back again," Marcus said in a low voice. "Focus on staying close." The children obeyed. They reached an open plaza where an old fountain stood cracked in the center. The place held traces of what used to be a small community area. Benches broken, lights fallen, walls stained with soot. A few abandoned toys lay scattered near the fountain. Tommy paused, staring at them. He whispered, "Other children lived here. Lyra's eyes softened. Before the war. Marcus looked around the plaza. It was too open, too quiet, too exposed. If a predator wanted to strike, this was the perfect spot. He motioned the children to hide behind a low wall. They crouched beside him. "I'm going to check the area," he whispered. "Don't move unless I tell you." Lyra grabbed his arm. "Please, don't leave us." Marcus placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I'll be right here. I promise." He stood slowly and walked a few steps into the plaza. His boots pressed lightly against the dust, making small puffs rise. He kept the baton ready, gun holstered but within reach. The air felt heavy, as if something huge was waiting behind the stillness. Marcus stopped and listened again. A faint scraping sound echoed from behind the fountain. He turned sharply. Nothing appeared, but he knew the sound belonged to something with armor or claws dragging against stone. He took one step forward. A loud crash broke the silence. The children screamed. Marcus ran back to them instantly. A large piece of collapsed ceiling had fallen from a nearby building, slamming into the street and sending dust rising like smoke. The impact echoed across the colony. Lyra wrapped her arms around Tommy. Tommy hid his face in her clothes. "It's okay," Marcus whispered, crouching beside them. "You're safe." But he knew the sound would attract anything lurking nearby. He looked around again, still silent, still waiting. He helped the children stand and guided them toward the northern road, leading to the central outpost. The road was cracked and uneven, but more open than the maze-like ruins behind them. He preferred open spaces now. Better visibility, fewer surprises. As they walked, Tommy tugged gently on Marcus's sleeve. "Human, why are you helping us?" Marcus looked down at him. "Because no one else did." Tommy blinked, confused but grateful. He took Marcus's hand for a short moment before letting go. Shyly, after several minutes, the outpost's signal tower came into view in the distance. Relief washed over Marcus. They were getting closer. He just needed to keep the children safe for a little longer. But then he noticed something worrying. Smoke rising from the tower. Black smoke. Thick, dark, fresh. Marcus stopped dead. Lyra bumped into his leg. "What happened?" Marcus didn't answer right away. His heart grew heavy with the truth forming in his mind. The tower was damaged, possibly attacked. That meant the Karnak were not just scouting, they were already moving through the colony. He crouched down and held the children's shoulders gently. "Listen to me carefully," he said. "We must stay quiet. We must stay together. And we cannot go to the outpost yet." Lyra's eyes widened with fear. "Why?" Marcus pointed to the smoke. "Someone attacked it. My team may not be there anymore." Tommy's lower lip trembled. "Then where do we go?" Marcus looked around, thinking fast. The colony was too open. The outpost was too exposed. He needed a safe place to hide the children before figuring out a plan. He spotted a half-underground maintenance shelter at the base of a broken transport station. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than the open road. "Come," he whispered. "We'll rest there." He led them quietly toward the shelter. As they passed a large metal beam, something moved again in the corner of Marcus's eye. A dark figure, tall, lumbering, almost blending with the broken walls. Marcus turned sharply, baton raised. But the shadow slipped away before he could fully see it. The air grew cold. Lyra squeezed Tommy's hand. "It's following us." Marcus steadied his voice. "It might be. But I'm here. You're safe." He ushered them into the maintenance shelter. It was dusty and dim but still intact enough to offer cover. Old crates lined the walls. A faint hum came from underground machines still working after years of neglect. The children sat on a crate. Tommy leaned against Lyra. She placed her arm around him. Marcus stood near the entrance, watching the outside. His weapon ready, his senses sharp. He tried the radio again. Only the same harsh static answered him. The jamming signal almost felt alive. Marcus tightened his grip on the baton. Outside, something growled again. Closer this time. Much closer. And then, the shadow slid across the ground, slow and deliberate, passing the entrance of the shelter like a silent warning. Marcus knew then. Whatever was stalking them was tired of waiting. The growl echoed through the maintenance shelter like a cold breath slipping across the floor. It was low, heavy, and full of hunger. Lyra froze. Tommy's small fingers tightened so hard around her arm that she felt them shake. Marcus had already stepped forward, placing his body between the children and the open entrance. His hand gripped the shock baton tightly. The weapon hummed with a soft blue glow, but even its light felt too small compared to the darkness creeping outside. Another shadow glided across the open doorway, larger this time, clearer, slower. It wasn't the shape of a human, or any animal Marcus knew. Lyra. Tommy, he whispered, without turning around. Stay behind the crates. Do not cry. Do not move. Just breathe slowly. They obeyed instantly. They trusted him now, not because he was human, but because he had stayed with them when everyone else left. Marcus took one slow step toward the entrance. His boots made no sound. His shoulders rose and fell in deep, controlled breaths. He had faced dangerous creatures before on Deathworld expeditions. Huge beasts that could kill soldiers with ease. But fear never ruled him. He learned long ago that fear wasted time, and right now, the children behind him had no time to waste. The creature outside scraped something hard across the ground. It sounded like metal claws dragging on stone. The sound made the hairs on Marcus's arms rise. Then the shadow stopped moving. Silence again. Marcus held the baton in front of him, waiting. Seconds passed like long minutes. A gust of wind blew dust into the shelter, making the air hazy. Lyra covered Tommy's mouth gently so he wouldn't cough. Still. Silence. Until a deep growl returned. But this time, it came from the left side of the doorway, not the front. The creature was moving around them. Marcus understood instantly. It was testing them, studying them, waiting for the right moment. He didn't wait for the creature to choose that moment. Marcus stepped outside. The children gasped softly, but he raised a hand behind his back, his silent promise that he would return. The ruined transport station stretched out before him, quiet and broken. Metal beams cast tall shadows across the cracked ground. Pieces of destroyed ships lay scattered like old bones. The entire place smelled of dust and decay. Marcus looked left. Nothing. He looked right. Still nothing. But he knew it was there, somewhere close. Come on, he whispered under his breath. Show yourself. The wind replied with a soft whistle. Then, a massive figure burst from behind a broken pillar, charging straight toward him. Marcus reacted instantly. He dodged to the side, rolled across the ground, and stood in one motion. The creature slammed into the wall where he had been standing, breaking loose a shower of old metal. It was huge, almost twice the height of a human. Its body was covered in dark, heavy armor plates. Its limbs were thick, and each hand held long, sharp claws like metal blades. Its eyes glowed a dull red. A Karnak raider beast. Not just a soldier, this was a tracking beast used by Karnak raider squads to locate prey. They were known for their strength, their speed, and the fact that once they locked onto a target, they did not stop. Marcus's grip tightened. The beast let out a roar that shook dust from the ceiling. Inside the shelter, Lyra covered Tommy's ears. Tommy pressed his face into her shoulder, full of terror. Marcus stood firm. The beast charged again. This time, Marcus didn't dodge. He waited until the last possible second, then swung the shock baton directly into the beast's jaw. Electricity exploded across its armor. The beast stumbled, claws scraping the ground, sparks flying, but it didn't fall. It recovered quickly, too quickly. The creature swiped at him with one massive arm. Marcus jumped back, but the claws grazed his armor, tearing a long scratch across his chest plate. He exhaled sharply. If that hit him directly, he would be cut open. The beast lunged again. Marcus ducked under its arm and slammed the baton into the creature's throat, the weak spot between armor plates. The beast roared and swung wildly. Marcus rolled under its body, hitting its ribs with the baton as he passed. But the creature was built for war. Pain only made it angrier. It spun around with surprising speed and slammed its clawed hand into Marcus's side. The blow sent him flying across the ground. He hit a metal crate and gasped as air left his lungs. The children cried out. "Marcus," Lyra whispered. Tommy covered his eyes. Marcus forced himself up. Pain burned in his ribs, but he couldn't stop. Not with the children watching. Not with danger this close. The beast stalked toward him, slow and confident now. Its red eyes glowed brighter. Marcus wiped blood from his lip and smirked. "You think you've got me, huh?" He pulled out his sidearm, a small plasma pistol. Not strong enough to kill the beast, but maybe enough to slow it. He fired 3 quick shots. Blue plasma bolts hit the beast's shoulder and chest. The beast roared and stumbled back, smoke rising from its armor. Marcus didn't waste the moment. He ran toward the creature, grabbed a broken metal pole from the ground, and used it like a spear. With a strong push, he jammed the pole between the beast's armor plates, pinning one of its arms slightly upward. The beast roared, thrashing wildly. Marcus leaped onto its back, grabbed the metal pole, and used it to pull himself upward. The creature tried to shake him off, slamming its back against walls. But Marcus held tight. He slammed the shock baton into the creature's neck again and again. Electricity danced across the beast's armor. Its legs shook. Sparks flew from its throat. The beast let out a deep groan. Then it fell forward, hitting the ground with a heavy crash. Dust exploded around them. Inside the shelter, Lyra stood, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "Is it dead?" she whispered. Marcus stepped back from the unmoving beast, panting slowly. His ribs hurt. His shoulder burned. And his arm had gone numb from the impact. But he forced himself to stay strong for the children. He shook his head. "No, just unconscious. It will wake up, soon." That meant they had no time. He hurried into the shelter, picking up Tommy first, then helping Lyra. "We must leave now." "Where?" Lyra asked. "Away from here. Away from this thing. And far from any place the raiders may search." Marcus stepped outside again, checking the sky, and that's when he saw them. In the distance, landing ships. Small, fast, Karnak raider transports. They were arriving. More were coming. The jamming made sense now. They wanted the colony silent before the attack. Lyra saw the ships too. Her breath caught in her throat. "They're coming for us?" "For everyone," Marcus said. "But we won't let them find us." He lifted Tommy onto his back. The boy rested his head on Marcus's shoulder. Lyra held his hand tightly as they ran across the broken plaza. The beast groaned behind them, waking slowly. Marcus didn't look back. They moved along the outer roads, hiding behind debris, staying low. Smoke from the damaged outpost tower rose higher now. The raiders were getting closer. Lyra looked up at Marcus. "Will your other human soldiers come soon?" "I called them," Marcus said. "They may come, but the signal is blocked," Tommy whispered, barely awake. "Are we going to die?" Marcus tightened his grip. "No. Not while I breathe." They ran until they reached an old ventilation shaft, leading into the underground service tunnels. The entrance was narrow, but it went deep beneath the colony. Safe at least for a moment, Marcus guided the children inside. Once they were in the dark tunnel, Marcus turned back one last time to scan the surface. He saw the beast rise fully now, shaking its head. It sniffed the air. It turned in their direction, and then it began to run. Marcus slid the metal gate shut and locked it with a broken pipe. The beast crashed into the gate 1 second later, roaring furiously. The metal bent but did not break. Lyra jumped at the sound. Tommy began to cry softly. Marcus placed one hand on the gate, staring at the beast through the narrow gaps. "Not today," he whispered. He turned toward the children. "We move deeper," he said. "There's a path that leads close to the shipyard. If we can reach it, humans will find us." "But what if the beast comes inside?" Lyra asked. Marcus took her hand. "Then I will fight again." He led them deeper into the tunnels, away from the monster, away from the smoke, away from the danger waiting above. But he knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The raiders were coming. The beast was awake, and the children were still far from safe. Marcus breathed deeply and whispered to himself, "I must protect them, no matter what." The underground tunnel stretched far into darkness. Old lights flickered weakly on the ceiling, barely bright enough to show the broken path ahead. Lyra held Marcus's hand tightly, while Tommy rested against his shoulder. Half asleep and too weak to walk, Marcus moved carefully, keeping his body between the children and the distant roars echoing from behind them. Every few seconds, a loud crash shook the metal gate they had locked. The beast was still trying to break in. Its claws scraped against steel like nails across glass, sending sharp sounds down the tunnel. Lyra looked back, eyes wide with fear. Marcus, will it come inside? Marcus didn't turn around. He kept walking forward, using the small flashlight on his wrist to guide them. Not now, he said firmly. We made distance. Every step takes us farther away from it. Tommy whispered weakly. I'm scared. Marcus tightened his arm around the boy. I know, buddy. But I'm here. I won't let anything touch you. I promise. The tunnel opened into a larger underground room. Old pipes hung from the ceiling, and broken wires sparked faintly. Dust floated in the air like fog. Marcus scanned the area for danger, then led the children toward a metal platform that overlooked a deeper shaft. This place connects to the shipyard, he explained softly. If we can reach the far tunnels, humans might spot us. We have to be careful. Raiders might be on the surface already. Lyra stepped closer. Why do the raiders come here? There is nothing to take. Marcus looked at her sadly. That's why they come. Weak places are easy targets. They don't care what they hurt. Lyra lowered her head. The council never helped us. No, Marcus said quietly. But humans did. The dim tunnel lights flickered again, and a vibrating hum echoed from deeper chambers. Marcus paused. Not the beast. Something larger. Something mechanical. A raider patrol unit. Marcus motioned the children behind a wall. He shut off his wrist light and crouched quietly, holding his sidearm low but ready. A moment later, a pair of red lights appeared in the tunnel. Heavy footsteps followed metal boots, not claws. A Karnak raider soldier marched past the opening, carrying a plasma rifle. Its armor plates clicked as it moved, scanning the area for survivors. Lyra held her breath. Tommy hid his face. Marcus didn't move a muscle. The raider paused, sniffing the air. Marcus tightened his jaw. If it turned their way, he would have to fight. But with the children so close, it would be risky. The raider turned away. Its footsteps slowly faded into the distance. Marcus exhaled silently. We have to go. They're already spreading underground. Come. He helped the children stand and continued deeper through the tunnel network. Pipes hissed softly overhead. The ground sloped downward until they reached a narrow walkway above an old water channel. The faint smell of rust filled the air. Lyra looked at the still water below. Is this safe? It's safer than the surface, Marcus said. Suddenly, a deep boom shook the tunnel. Dust rained from the ceiling. Marcus steadied himself against a wall. What was that? Tommy whispered. Marcus listened carefully. The rumble continued, growing louder. Not from behind them. From above, he recognized the sound. Drop pods, human military pods. His heart jumped. It's my squad. They're landing. They heard the emergency beacon, but the signal was blocked. Lyra said. It was, Marcus replied. But humans don't stop searching when something feels wrong. Another boom shook the tunnel, closer this time. Marcus could almost imagine the armored soldiers landing on the surface, forming defensive lines, pushing through raiders, but they still had to reach the surface. And the beast, the raiders, they were all around them. Marcus picked up Tommy again and grabbed Lyra's hand. We're close. Just stay with me. They climbed a steep ladder to a higher tunnel. The air here was warmer, filled with echoes of distant gunfire. Human gunfire. Lyra froze. Is that your people fighting? Yes, Marcus whispered. That means help is close. They hurried through the final stretch of the tunnel. A broken metal grate blocked the exit, but Marcus kicked it aside. Fresh air rushed in, cold, smoky, and filled with noise. They had reached the lower shipyard. Above them, the sky burned orange with explosions. Human ships hovered overhead, firing on raider transports. Bright beams of blue and green streaked across the air. The ground shook with every blast. Dozens of armored humans spread across the shipyard, taking positions, covering each other, shouting orders. Humanity didn't abandon colonies. Not today. Not ever. Marcus stepped into the open, children still behind him. He spotted the distinct white armor of Commander Reyes near a drop pod. She shouted orders to her squad, gun raised as she fired at raiders hiding behind scrap piles. Marcus cupped his hands and yelled, "Commander! Over here!" Reyes whipped her head around. Her eyes widened the moment she saw him and the two small figures clinging to him. She rushed across the battlefield with two soldiers covering her sides. "Lieutenant Hale, you're alive. We lost your signal." "I know," Marcus said. "Jamming tech. Raiders are everywhere." Reyes looked at Lyra and Tommy. "Who are they?" Marcus placed a protective hand on each child. "Survivors. They had nobody left. I had to help them." Reyes studied the children's frightened faces for a moment. Then she nodded. "Understood. They're under our protection now." Lyra exhaled softly, relief washing over her face. Tommy clung tighter to Marcus's armor. A sudden roar broke through the noise. Marcus froze. The beast. It burst out from a cracked hangar door, armor plates damaged but still terrifying. It scanned the battlefield until its eyes locked on Marcus and the children. And it charged. Reyes shouted, "Open fire!" Human soldiers aimed their rifles, unleashing a hail of blue plasma. The beast roared as bolts slammed into its armor. But it kept running, unstoppable. Driven by instinct and rage, Marcus moved the children behind a cargo crate. "Stay here." He stepped out, raising his baton again, but Reyes grabbed his arm. "No, Hale, we handle this." She signaled to her heavy unit troopers. "Hit it with suppression fire." Two soldiers stepped forward with larger plasma cannons. They fired in unison, blue fire exploding across the beast's chest. The creature stumbled. Sparks showered from its damaged armor, but it still came. Reyes clenched her jaw. Again, a second blast hit the beast directly in the throat, its only true weak spot. Smoke burst from the wound. The creature collapsed forward, sliding across the ground before finally going still. Lyra covered her mouth, stunned. Tommy whispered, "It's gone." Marcus released a long, tired breath. His ribs hurt. His body shook. But his spirit felt lighter. Reyes turned to him. "Lieutenant, you've been through hell." Marcus looked at the children. "They've been through worse." Reyes nodded. "We're evacuating survivors. Get them to the med staff. They'll be safe now." Marcus knelt, so he was eye level with Lyra and Tommy. "See? Humans came." Lyra looked at him with big, trembling eyes. "Because of you." Tommy reached out and hugged Marcus's neck. It was a small, weak hug, but it held everything: fear, relief, gratitude. Marcus gently returned the hug. "You're safe now." Reyes watched quietly. Something soft in her expression. "We'll take them to the human ship. They'll get food, medical care, and a place to stay." Lyra hugged her toys tightly, then took Marcus's hand. "Will you stay too?" Marcus smiled gently. "I'm not leaving you." "Not now." Human soldiers surrounded the group, guiding them toward a rescue ship. As they walked, Lyra looked back at the ruined colony, her old world disappearing behind smoke and fire. But Tommy whispered, "We have a new chance now. Right, Lyra?" She nodded slowly. "Because humans didn't leave us behind." The rescue ship doors opened. Warm lights filled the interior. Medics rushed forward with blankets and water. As Marcus carried Tommy inside and guided Lyra to a seat, other aliens in the ship stared in surprise. They whispered among themselves, "Why are humans helping them so much? I thought humans were dangerous. I thought Deathworlders only fought." But then they saw Marcus sitting between the two starving children, protecting them with a quiet strength, and they understood. Humans were dangerous, but only to those who threatened the weak. Lyra leaned her head on Marcus's arm. Tommy held Marcus's hand and fell asleep beside him. For the first time in a long time, both children felt safe. The ship lifted into the sky, and everyone on board witnessed the simple truth of that day. One human saved two starving children, and because of that, a whole colony learned to hope again.